everybody, it's Mountain Mike, out on the mountain. Today I'm going to talk about my experience with my assembly and my purchase with my Norwood sawmill and what that looks like for me. Now this isn't everybody's story, this is just mine. So I'll just give you the honest guy review up to this point. For my experience right now, I really wanted to share my goods and bads, my pros and cons of having bought this mill. I even got all professional and made me a list. So starting out, I wanted to talk about the LM29V2 versus the LM30. As far as I understand it, there is no difference other than the sticker. Now my only complaint here was when I ordered it, I requested an LM30, and all through the transaction of the purchase, the item was called an LM30. So when I get it, it's an LM29V2, unbeknownst to me that it's the same thing. So that caused me a little consternation on my part of, oh gee, I got ripped off. Well, obviously I didn't get ripped off if it's the same thing. I don't have a problem with that. I just have a problem with not being informed on that. It's not that big of a deal. Item 2. I'm not fond of their website, but it wasn't the end of the world. I just find the way they don't really post their prices on things, I don't really like that. You know, once you buy their mill, they've got you over a barrel, don't they? I mean, to buy their parts for the mill. So I've just ordered me a kit for spare parts. You know, I asked them to assemble what they consider to be wear items and spare parts for this mill. If I am going to be in business, I don't want to lose production, what do you suggest I have on hand? And that'll be another video we get to. So the prices on these parts you don't see up front, and you don't know what they're going to cost you if you have to replace them. Not the end of the world prices, but you know, some of it's kind of high, you know. I mean, I found the auto water lube kit to be high for what it is, but after operating the mill one time, I saw the value in it. So it's a little bit of give and take. They kind of have you over that, hey, you got our brand now, you got to buy our parts, and not wholly you don't have to buy their parts, but they do kind of have you over a barrel in that. So that's something to consider, but you're going to have to consider that in any mill you buy. So number 3 on my list is definitely the way it was shipped to me. And I think a lot of this had to do with the shipping company. It did, and I'm going to give Norwood a little slack here. So it did get a lot of shipment. They tried to ship it to me 3 times before they even told me that they were trying to ship it to me. And so I had some issues with delivery. And that was probably part of the issues of the condition of the boxes. But, I mean, there was one box of rails that wasn't even inside the shrink wrap, that was just set on top of the pallet. I'm not sure how it made it with everything, you know. The bottom of the pallet could have been shrink wrapped all the way to the pallet. The very bottom of the boxes were all damaged. But all in all, other than some paint damage, nothing was hurt. So it didn't hurt a thing for it to be a little beat up. It is a big old piece of iron in the long run, other than the motor and the sensitive parts, you know. Okay, so I lost a little paint. So I'd like it not to have scratches coming straight from the factory and being bought new, but it's not the end of the world. I guarantee you it'll be a short time before I put a few on it. So number 4 on my list is the cheap nuts and bolts. I was really disappointed in those. They tell you in the instruction manual that you can use an impact gun. They don't give you a torque value on any of these things. They don't give you any idea how strong these are, other than the markings on the head of the bolts. So I used a 1/2-inch socket wrench to drive all the nuts and bolts on the bed rails together and all that to be good and tight. I did use a small cheater pipe. I think I definitely made a mistake because I had a 12-sided socket. I did not have a 6-sided socket to go on these nuts, and it did slip around some of these nuts. It did strip them out. That's definitely partially due to the 12-sided socket. but not wholly is the socket responsible for the stripping out of the nuts. I just think they're cheap. So I definitely don't recommend using any kind of impact gun on this.
No.
I mean, you can get it snugged real quick with one, but when I would go to finish it out, I sure wouldn't try to do it that way. I think you would end up twisting some things in two.
Oops.
So consider that. So next on my list is the instruction manual. I have a problem with it. I think some of y'all might have heard me say a thing or two about it. I'm not sure. But all in all, I mean, the way it's put together, the way it looks, I mean, color photographs might be nice, not necessary. Just most of all, completion. The instructions just aren't complete. If it was just complete, Norwood, if it was just complete. There's so many things missing in here. There's so many things wrong. I don't understand. I mean, I don't know. I'm just completely dumbfounded by the directions. The directions are not awful, but okay at best is probably my rating. So if you're not mechanically inclined, you're liable to run into some difficulties without clear directions and have to reach out to Norwood. Supposedly they have a really good tech team that will help you assemble this if you give them a call and get in touch with them. It shouldn't be a problem for you. The directions do lack in clarity. They're misleading, parts are in different places, and I don't understand. So, you know, I've really busted Norwood's chops about this. Not tried to dog them, but I'm definitely giving them a hard time because I do think they can do better for their customers. I don't think they're a bad company. I don't think they're the best they can be right now. I do think they have some growing pains going on that evidently with the COVID and the surge in buying sawmills, I'm not the only one that's bought a sawmill by any means. Getting to be a popular subject. So I want to reach out to Norwood and just say, hey, I'm just busting your chops, Norwood. You know, don't take it personal. It's no big deal. So as long as we're on instructions, I want to talk about the lack of instructions on the clutch installation. So that right there alone is, to me, just not okay to not give the direction of installation on something as important as a clutch.
Yeah.
It's really simple to say, hey, spring's out, and it wasn't there. It cost me a couple hours time because I couldn't figure it out. I'm too stupid to turn the thing around. I just knew the springs went in. I mean, I don't put clutches on small motors every day. This is not something I do. I'm very much okay with working on things. I don't have a problem with working on things, but going to put a clutch on a small motor, I've never done it. So, you know, I don't think this is something that everybody does every day. Given a little straightforward direction in that sense, you know, it's common sense. So I'm requesting Norwood just to have a little common sense in their direction and not leave us hanging so much in that.
Yeah.
So another one of the cons I would say is the plastic water tank. It's not a huge con, but I would definitely say it's not nearly as good as the stainless steel tanks you see on other models. It would be really nice to see a stainless steel tank on that, something that's going to be durable and last the lifetime of the mill, not 5-10 years and have to be replaced. There's no telling what Norwood would charge for that tank. It's a proprietary item. You're going to order it from Norwood or you're going to have to design your own. Well, I guarantee you if I ever have to replace it, I'll put my own on there. Next and lastly on my con list is the way they ship my boxes. Not the condition, but how they shipped it. You know, they told me it was going to be 12 to 16 weeks in waiting before I got my order. Well, it was 3 or 4 weeks before they sent the very first shipment. And they sent everything but 3 boxes. And I waited quite some time thereafter for those 3 boxes so I could finish the actual assembly. Wasn't the end of the world, but I had just built my shop and just was getting it organized, and then I have to throw all this sawmill stuff in there, and it takes up room. So be prepared to be able to do something with all these boxes before you actually get all the boxes to assemble your mill. You can go ahead, but I was missing a vital box that it wasn't going to do me any good to open one box before I had them all. I didn't really see the need in it. It was going to be a big disaster, and you're going to have all these parts thrown out everywhere if you try to go ahead and beat the other shipment of boxes. I don't think that's a good idea at all. It was a complicated process, and you better have everything right in front of you. So the first thing on my pro list is they upgraded me to the Honda motor for free. They didn't tell me this was a special offer or anything like that. I wanted the Honda motor upgrade, and I was willing to pay the $400 for it. And when they sent me the bill, it was free, and I really appreciated that. That's good business. I really appreciate things like that. I wish they would have told me up front instead of just surprising me with it, but hey, you know, surprises are good sometimes. Alright, so next on the pro list is, despite the directions being so incomplete, all in all, it was a fairly easy assembly. So if you're able to work past all the misdirections in there, it's really not that hard. I mean, it's fairly straightforward, especially if you watch my videos. You'll have a real good idea what's going on. I had no idea. I just started opening boxes and reading directions, and that's all I did throughout the assembly. Thirdly on my list, I like orange. Okay, next on the list is, let's talk about the design. The 4-post design, the rails, the cross bunks, it all seems to be a good design. So you'll see other models with their cross bunks as tubing and not these brackets. But I think these brackets are probably stronger than the tubing, if not as strong. The way it's made is definitely made for them to be able to ship it out in boxes and for you to assemble it. It's more of a sandwich design in the rails, and the 4-post design in the carriage seems to be sturdy enough. If you hit the stops too hard, it seems to rock back and forth, kind of in a twisty motion. I think that bit of flex, I don't really like that, but you shouldn't really have that affect your sawing unless you really got a dull blade or something like that. I mean, it shouldn't be twisting. Next on my pro list is to talk about what you can do with a mill like this. So I'm definitely going to try to start me a little business with this sawmill, and that's the benefit of, for a small amount of investment, what you can do and turn around and make with that. There's a lot of people on the internet that will say you can't make money at sawmilling and this and that, and well, that may be true. There's guys that do it and make money. I'm not going to even think about being a high production mill. I probably will get into building furniture in the long run. I definitely want to build a solar kiln, definitely do the videos for that. I know that I will sell some lumber, I will get into some of that, but you never know what facet you'll actually fall into. So my point is that Norwood definitely puts a really nice product in somebody's hand for a smallish investment that they can take and make them a good living. So everybody has to do this differently, and you have to decide how you want that to look. So it definitely seems that the construction of it is easy to work on and easy to figure out what might be going wrong if you're having something going wrong with your mill. There's not a whole lot to it. You got band wheels, you got belts, and you got blades, and you got a motor that turns all that, and that's pretty much it. The track, the carriage just keeps everything straight in place. You got to adjust it up and down, you got to grease it, you got to oil it, replace a cable here and there, or an idler pulley. So replacing parts shouldn't be a problem at all. And lastly on my pro list, I want to say that it came complete.
Whoa.
I hear a lot of people on forums and asking questions and this and that they're missing this bolt or that bolt, and I really expected to run into that. I mean, I'm most definitely expected to run into that, and I did not. I was shocked. So I was absolutely amazed that all the parts were in my kit. So I give Norwood a big hand. Thank you so much for getting all my parts in the boxes. Now, we did have the one retainer rail that was dysfunctional, and I've got that ordered. They sent it, I've got it in. All I got to do is slap it on. That was a breeze. Now I also promised the auto water lube kit. So when I got to doing the video, I opened the bag up and the throttle cable was the wrong one. So I had to delay putting the video out until I get the replacement cable. It's on the way, it should be here just shortly. So as soon as I get that, I'm gonna put that video out for you guys. I'm so sorry, I know there was a few guys that were wanting that video out there, and I promised it was gonna come out the next video, and it's been a couple weeks now. So next we're gonna talk about all the tools it took to assemble this thing. Okay, so while on the subject of actually having all the parts, this is actually what I had left over. And I'm really thankful to have some of these parts, because the nuts and bolts were fairly cheap. I twisted a couple off, and just to have some replacements for this stuff. I don't even know what these were for. I didn't use anything like them, but I did have some of these to use. So, alright, so now we're going to be talking about these tools that it took to assemble this thing. Right? So you definitely need a grease gun, because you're going to have some things to grease. So as you just saw, we hacksawed the baffle off. You'll definitely want to do that. We got some motor oil for our motor. And we had a hammer, Phillips head, flathead. I had a couple of different Allen wrenches I was using, 2 or 3 in that. That wasn't the most convenient thing to use on some of it. Pliers, a little adjustable wrench, and I used the tap that they supplied in that box there. I used that several times, and I just used the adjustable wrench for that basically. I did have to supply my own tap at one point for the adjustable blade guide guard. It didn't want to go into the blade guide itself. I am a little amused at this. Norwood supplied this, and maybe it's a funny size and that's why they do it, but it was only used for one thing, and it was to put your winch crank handle on, and that's all that was used for. I don't know that I had that size or not. I'm assuming that I did. I found that to be a little amusing that this was provided for that one item. You definitely need some good bright string to do your bed leveling with when you do the string and nut method. 4-foot level, small level, definitely a tape measure, oil can. Now because of the grease and oil, you definitely want some paper towels. Wood shims, when you're truing up the bed, you'll definitely want a bucket of them. Those came in quite handy. The size of tools I used all 3 sizes of my socket wrenches. I have 15/16, 3/4, 9/16, 1/2 inch, 7/16. I believe that goes there. We have some 10mm, 3/8, and 5/16 deep socket. And I used some deep sockets on the 9/16 1/2 inch. I definitely used some extensions. To put the lumber production table on, I needed my wobble socket. So that's pretty much everything I used to get this done. It was not a lot of tools that you needed to get the assembly done. Using some cordless impacts or something like that to get all the nuts and bolts snugged up, and then snug everything else by a torque wrench or by hand, finding a torque value that would please you. I suggest doing it that way. I surely don't suggest using an impact full throttle. So I know you're dying. How much did you spend in all? So the 10 blade pack, it cost me $239. The auto water lube kit cost me $99. And the 4-foot bed extension cost me $199. Now these were right before they upped their prices. These may be a little higher now, and I'm assuming they are. They sent out a notice that product prices were going to go up. So I just met that deadline. I think that was back May 15th. I just barely met that deadline because it actually took me so long to get an order in, because it was difficult to get a hold of them And because my phone service out here way out in the middle of nowhere doesn't work, they want to call you and they could never call me and get in. So it took me almost a month to be able to actually place my order, and it was a big ordeal. But I finally got it in right before the deadline, so I do know that probably the prices have gone up on everything. But how much did I spend? Total for everything with shipping and taxes. Now the shipping was approximately $500 and the taxes was approximately $500. So I spent another $1,000 on taxes and shipping. So my grand total was $7,034 and some odd cents. It's not a huge debt. It's not something that a sawmill like this can't pay off. Especially if you plan to do something like build a house or lots of projects out on the homestead, which I definitely have. And I have plenty to keep me busy for years and years. So $7,000 is not an exorbitant price to live the lifestyle that I do and to have the woods that I have. At the very least, I can build a house. I'm definitely wanting in the future to build another house to live in. It's going to allow me to do so many things I can't wait to share with you guys. I hope y'all stay tuned for the projects, and it's not just about the assembly for you. I really want to share some of what we can do with sawing some wood and what we're going to do with it. So I really can't wait to start figuring this thing out and make a little money. I'm not looking to get rich. I just want to make a little money. I just want to survive like anybody else. So I really enjoy doing this kind of thing. This is something that I enjoy doing. If you don't like lifting heavy logs and the smell of sawdust, you probably ought not be a sawyer. But that's okay. It's not for everybody. Alright, so all in all, what's my opinion? Do I like the mill? Don't I? Yeah, I like the mill. I like it. I think it's great. I mean, I've sawed the one log and I'm ready to get to sawing some more. I've had some things take me away and I haven't really been able to get to playing on the sawmill. And I'm fixing to saw me another one for you. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little more sawdust on the ground. I can't wait. I really appreciate all the subscribers that have come on board and who is still to come on board. I really appreciate y'all checking me out, checking out the journey and what's going on with this sawmill. It's going to be a cool journey. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. So I want to make something clear that I think that I may have not made clear in some of my other videos. First off, that when you put your blade on and you're going to track it, that you need to go ahead and tension it all the way, because your band wheels will not be in the right position until your blade is tensioned. And then you do your adjustment. Then when you're done sawing, you need to loosen the tension off your blade. I did not realize this. I wish it would make it clear, but evidently it can run your blade to keep it tensioned up. I didn't run my blade, but so when you do this, you're going to get real comfortable with the tension and untensioning of your blade. So I'm not real comfortable with it yet. They tell you 4 to 6 turns, but they don't really tell you from where. At the very end, I mean, the directions on that aren't real good. I've watched several videos, even Norwood's videos are misleading. This guy says he saws at 4.5 turns and this, I don't know. The other guy, he just cranks the crap out of it. Okay, so you want it tight. I think you want it tight, that's the thing. So we're going to tension this thing up and go ahead and give this log a saw. got us two 2x4s out of that. And that'd have been an otherwise wasted tree. It wasn't much of a tree, but it made a couple of nice boards. Alright, so we got us a couple of 2x4s cut with an otherwise wasted tree. I've cut so many trees down here just to get them out of my way that I've always thought, man, that would make something good. I just hate to waste it. And the termites and the sawyer bugs get it, and it just goes to rot, which is nature's way. So if I deprive a bug or two of this wood, I'm not ashamed. I'm going to put this wood to use, even though nature's way is to claim it back. So I'm really happy with the 2x4s I just made. They're not perfect. I don't think they're perfectly square, but you know, that's going to be a learning journey, getting things perfectly square. And I don't think that's going to happen overnight. I'm definitely hesitant to put an ad out there saying I'm ready to cut for you when I'm not ready to cut for me. So I'm going to play with this a while longer before I put an ad out there and say I want to cut some lumber. So it might be a week or two before I'm ready to put an ad in and cut some lumber for somebody. I definitely want to practice up on this and get proficient at it, so I don't want to screw an order up for somebody. Like I said, I'm not trying to go in big business here. I'm just trying to make a little dough like everybody else. So tomorrow, in the meantime, we're going to go to my buddy Uncle Frank's house. He's a good buddy of mine. He's got a little bit of property, and he's got some big old cedars on it. I don't have cedars on my property. I really want to thank my buddy Uncle Frank. He's a real good man, and I really appreciate him donating the logs to us, getting us going and getting us started with that. That's a real nice way to start the mill. So I appreciate you, Uncle Frank. So I've had a fun time videoing the process of the assembly and doing the assembly, although I pulled a few hairs out, and I'm pretty dang sure I got a couple more grays. Oh no! But that's life. That's how it goes. You take it as it comes. This is not something that if you're a weekend warrior you're going to do overnight. Just don't worry about it. Just get out there and work on it. You'll get it done. So I don't think you just have to jump on Norwood's bandwagon. I don't think they have a bad product. I don't really have any comparison to put it to. I've seen some wood misers. They look like okay mills, but I didn't own one at the time, and I sure didn't know what I was looking at. So I bet this mill here can cut its weight in gold in the end before I can wear it out. And I'm looking forward to trying wearing it out. We'll see. It's going to be a very interesting process. Well, I figure we'll come up with something. I'm Mountain Mike, out on the mountain. Till next time.